Hello guys, my name is Jay, and today I'm going to talk about something that I haven't talked about that much on my channel, and that is reading books. I do love reading books, and I thought today I would make a video about one of my favorite ever book series, the Divergent books by Veronica Roth. And I do have a mug of the day today, and it's this frozen mug. Here's Olaf on one side, and Anna with Elsa on the other side, and it's cute. And you guessed it, I'm having a green tea with peach. Also, do you love this necklace? It's dead Tamagotchi going to heaven. So cute. Actually found it as a keychain, but then I kind of DIY'd it into a necklace because this was too cute to just keep on my keys. So cute. So, what is it? What are the Divergent books? Uh, well, you probably have heard of them before. Uh, they're almost as famous as Hunger Games are, so you might have heard. And it's kind of old news, but I still want to talk about it. And there are three books. I mean, there is the main trilogy. There are three books. I have them right here. These are the main three books, but there were actually five books altogether that came out in this universe, and I have read four. Haha, four. If you get it, you get it. Four of them, and I haven't read the fifth one, and I'm not planning on doing that, but I'm gonna talk about it later. So, you might have watched the movies, and you might be thinking, Jay, they're shit. And I know they are. I know that the movies didn't work, but the books are really good. I watched the first one when I was like, how old could I be? 14? 12? Then time, I don't know. I watched it as a movie first, and I thought it was alright, the first one. And then I watched the other two. I was like, wow, this is not it. This is not very good, is it? And if you feel the same, then don't feel alarmed because the books are a different story. I mean, the same story, but you know what I mean. You know what I mean. It's a different story. They're different. They're really good, unlike the movies. Actually, the movies were so bad that they never filmed or came out with the last one. So basically, as I said, there are main three books, so there should have been three movies. And just like with Hunger Games, they decided to split the third book into two movies. And I mean, if you see how thick they're like the same thickness, all of them. It feels unnecessary already, but on top of that, the second and third movie did so badly that the fourth one, aka the second part of the third book, never came out as a movie. It was that bad. But that's about that. But now I'm gonna talk about the books. And first, I'm gonna talk about the main trilogy, and then shortly talk about the other two books, which one of them I have read and the other one I haven't. So, what is it? What is this about? Also, I guess, spoiler alert, but like, I think it's pretty fair to talk about all the spoilers. So, first, I'm gonna talk about the first book, and that is Divergent. Yes, it's in a different language. I am Czech. That's why I have accent, I guess. And in Czech, it's called Divergence, and that's the first one. Myself with the book, and it's just in English. It's called Divergent. That's how you're gonna know it. um, and um, I have written down some notes, and that is mostly for the reason that there's some specific terminology that I only know in Czech because I have read them in Czech. And so, the first book, what is it about? Well, this story is kind of genre wise is young adult slash sci-fi slash post-apocalyptic. I think that has a specific term that I cannot remember, but you know, post-apocalyptic, you know what that means, so we're good. And the story takes place in 2011 to 2014 post-apocalyptic Chicago. And that's already a spoiler, but to be fair, like they already spoil it to you in the reviews on the books and everything, because you're not actually supposed to know it's Chicago, because it's just talked about as the city, and you're not supposed to know that, but they tell you everywhere in the beginning anyways. But I don't think that's a spoiler that matters as much. But yeah, takes place in post-apocalyptic Chicago, and we're following story of a girl who just turned 16. Her name is Beatrice, and later on she's called just Tris. So I'm gonna refer to her as Tris from now on. And about her family and her world and what life is like in the city. And she has a mother, father, and a brother whose name is Caleb. But about him, I'm gonna talk about him later. So yeah. So the society in this world is formed into factions, and these are some sort of groups that just people separated themselves into. And I'm gonna tell you a little bit about them because they play quite an important role. So yeah. So the first one is called abnegation, and I even wrote down some definitions so you would kind of know what they're on about. So each of the groups lives completely differently, and they have completely different set of rules. So the first, abnegation, means the act of rejecting something, um, which means that they have these rules basically where you have to give others, and others have to be more important to you than yourself, and you should be happy about it, but you kind of have to do it if you're in this faction or group of people. And this is the group where Tris is born into. The second one is Amite. I hope I'm pronouncing that well. Amite, which means relationships, friendly relationships. They're the not really peacemakers, but more like keepers of the peace. And peace is basically their like top thing, friendship and peace. And sometimes they wouldn't stand in a conflict even when conflict is kind of needed or an argument is needed, but they are known to know how to agree with each other. So yeah, and know how to agree to disagree with the other groups. So that's a mighty. The next one, the third one, is called Candor, and that is basically honesty, sincerity. And their top thing is being basically 100% honest all of the time. That's their thing. The first one is called Dauntless, and they're basically the fearless ones. They are the Gryffindors of this world, if you know what I mean. That's what they are, and what they hate the most is uh, being a coward, basically. And the fifth one is called Erudite. I hope I'm pronouncing well. And that is basically the Ravenclaw of this world, and um, they like to show great knowledge or learning. So basically, wisdom and being smart, having information, studying, that's their top priorities. Triss is born into the abnegation, um, because that's the path her parents chose. And you kind of go with this story going through her perspective. So you only know what she knows, and she knows nothing. And the reason for that is because in abnegation, it's basically considered rude to ask questions, kind of opposite to the erudite. So they barely have the right to speak up. Um, they have to have huge respect for their parents, whether earned or not. Um, this one is echoing, I just noticed. If you remember some of the movies, there's the scene at the beginning where her mom is giving her a haircut, and she can look in herself in the mirror, but only for like a little moment, and then she has to cover it up. So usually in this faction, they do not even own mirrors, or they have like one covered mirror in the house, because they can only look at the cell and at themselves in the mirrors once in a while in like special moments and stuff. And the reason for it is because if you look at yourself in the mirror, you can become too self-centered, selfish, and that's not what these guys are about. So Triss and her brother Caleb turn 16, and at 16 you have to pick your own group of people, and um, they do have a methods for that, and basically they give you a test, and in this test they tell you you are most suitable for this faction or this faction, this group of people is the best for you. But you still do have a choice um, to pick a different one. And most people do not. Most people, first of all, get the same group as they were raised into, as their parents. Um, and second of all, most people just, even if they get different results, um, they still do not change the group that they were born into. And the results of these trials, of this test, are secret, and you're never supposed to tell anyone about them. Triss is going to her test with her brother, and she meets this girl. I believe her name is Tori. I haven't read that in a couple months, so forgive me if I forget some of the names and details. There are a lot of characters. And she tries on this test, and basically they put these things on her and connect her to like this big computer thing, and she gets into a simulation in a fake situation, and there are a couple of tests in this fake situation. Like there's table, and you have knife on it, and you have to decide if you take the knife or if you do not, or if you take some other object. And then angry dog shows up, and then it depends what you do with the dog. Like, do you stab it with the knife because he's completely gone rabbit and stuff, um, or what do you do in that situation? So yeah, and not gonna go into much details, but basically you get a bunch of situations going like this. And basically when Triss finishes her test, this girl Tori, I hope. Um, tells it looks really like alarmed basically, and tells her to do not speak about the result, to leave home, and to not tell anyone what happened, to just say that she got sick and that's why she went home early. And Tris is obviously very confused by this. Like, what the hell are my results then? Like, what is the faction that it's suitable for me? And this girl gets like really quiet, as if it's something secret, dangerous. And even though we are normally not supposed to talk about the test results, this is still surprisingly like way too secretive, if you know what I mean. And basically, she tells her that she is suitable for abnegation, the group she was born to, erudite, which are the smart guys, and dauntless, which are the Gryffindors, basically. And Triss is like, well, how the hell can I be suitable for three groups? And she basically explains to her that she is divergent. Here we go, the title of the book, Divergent. So we kind of get the understanding that being divergent means that you are not your typical human and you're suitable for more than just one group. And uh, she basically tells her that's really dangerous thing to be. Triss doesn't really get it, so you go along with the story with Triss, also not knowing what the hell and why is that dangerous. So you might wonder why I cut off the video here and why I look different now. And the reason is that basically the video got too long and I started talking too much into depth about the topic. But I thought the first like 15 minutes were still pretty useful and I gave you a pretty good introduction there. But I gonna have to cut it shorter or this video will have a million hours and I'm not having it. And you would definitely not be having it. So now I'm just gonna keep it or try to keep it really short and tell you a little bit about each book. So I think this was the most important part, so we would get into the story and would understand the settings that they're in. So what happens after Triss's test? Um, she chooses the group or the faction Dauntless, and the first book is basically about her going through the training and finding herself some friends and a boyfriend who is four. If you know a little bit about the universe, you know he's called four. So she starts kind of dating this guy four, and she finds herself some friends. But it also shows not just the pretty parts, but also the struggling parts. And what is she struggling most about is basically her differences, because being divergent means that she can't really keep up with this straightforward thinking, or like with just this specific thinking of the one group, because she is divergent and understands other groups too, because she would be suitable for other groups as well. So she struggles with her differences. But that's not the only problem. The real problem is that she has to conceal it a lot. First of all, to kind of fit in with this group of people that she has to live with right now, but also because someone's after people like her, aka someone's after the divergent people. And basically, the end of the book, if I go fast forward, um, is where this system and this society starts falling apart, because society can't work like that. And some shit goes down that I'm not gonna get into, because that's a long story, first of all. Second of all, I will have to give you all the spoilers. Um, so, uh, the end of the book is where she and this guy four, and the people who stayed alive basically until the end of the book, were running away, kinda. Um, and now we're starting to talk about the second book. So the second book in Czech is called Resistance. In English, is called Insurgent, uh, which means kind of the same thing. Someone rising up, basically rebelling against something, and in this case, the rebels are the Divergent people and people who are on their side. And um, I should kind of explain to you why someone was after Divergent people, and that is literally because they were worried that Divergent people didn't fit into their society, therefore, they would ruin their society that they have built. And, uh, well, uh, when they start murdering those people and then more shit goes down, the society starts to fall apart anyways, right? And so the book two, um, Tris and the others run and hide basically with the people from MIT, the peacekeepers, you could say, because they want to give them protection and they don't want to fight, and there's a big drama about it. But how I would sum up this book is this is the most depressing one. This is depressing as fuck. And it's my least favorite from the trilogy, because the first book is basically a lot of fun stuff and a lot of new things happening, and then a lot of bad shit going down, especially with Triss, who's the main character, so it makes sense. But this book is Triss being really traumatized and really depressed and kind of suicidal, not gonna lie. Like, she doesn't really appreciate life in this book, and it makes sense because a lot of people died and she's going through it all, and it's really depressing. But this book is basically them finding out about why why all the shit in book one went down, and why were the Divergent people such a problem in the first place. And in the end, they find out, basically, that there's something happening behind the city borders, because what they're taught is that after the apocalyptic events, after war in this case, the world was ruined, and everything behind the city borders is dangerous. And, well, now they found out that part of all the shit that went down is because they were those leaders of those groups were keeping secrets, and the secrets had something to do what's behind the city borders. And this book basically ends up with them leaving the city. The third book, in Czech it's called Alliance, and in English it's called Allegiant, which is same thing basically, someone loyal. This is about uh, Triss and you, together with her, finding out why their city worked like that. So if the second book was about Triss going through the trauma, this book would kind of be about the healing from the trauma and her starting to appreciate her life once again. And now, storyline wise, um, you find out why the city, why was it like that, why the separate groups of people. And now it's the time where I'm gonna give you a lot of spoilers, so if you want to read it, I recommend not watching the rest of this video. But if you don't care, okay, let's continue for the rest of us. uh, so the plot twist is Triss is just normal. Basically, that's the big plot twist, because the city was made as an experiment, and yes, the world is mostly destroyed by the war, but there are other places where people live. And basically, it all started as an experiment because people were convinced problems such as war and world conflicts were caused by people's genetics, and they thought if they could fix the genetics and play gods, basically, they could fix people and there would be no more war and no more conflict. And so they fucked up human genes. Well, that's where the real shit began, the war. They found out this that it's actually a lot worse now when they messed up with people's genetics. And that's why they start this project, this experiment, with bunch of other experiments, and this was their most successful experiment so far. And the point of this whole city, this whole thing, was that they knew that people would, generation by generation, finally have their genes normal, back to normal, basically. And that's who Divergent people were. They were the people who had fixed genes. They didn't know that it would get fucked in the city as well, and someone would start murdering the people who are fixed. So, and at the end of the book is basically just finding out that this society outside of the city is very flawed too. And it makes sense because this bigger society made this smaller society within the city, so it makes sense. And this group of people, Tris, Four, and her friends, end up fighting against issues in this society. And the end isn't very happy. And now I'm gonna give the major spoiler, I guess. So Trace doesn't end up well. She dies, basically. She dies for this fight. Why do I wanna cry? And so yeah, she dies fighting it, but the fight is won in the end, and the society does seem to be getting better after, but in the expense of the main character dying. So yeah, now I'm gonna shortly talk about the other two books. So the first book is Four, which is obviously named after the character, the Triss's boyfriend, and it's written from his point of view, and it's kinda a prequel, but kinda not, because part of it is what happens before the whole Divergent trilogy. Um, but the other part of it, the bigger part of it, is what happens in the first Divergent book. So part of these two books have the same story. They meet throughout the story, uh, but they are from different persons' perspective. So the same story is happening in Divergent, but from Triss's point of view. And the same story happens in part of this book, but it is from Four's point of view. And this book is pretty thin, and it's pretty good. It just feels like an extra little something for the trilogy, I guess. Like, could we deal without it? Absolutely. Do I mind reading it? No, it was fun. It was good. Actually, I have read the trilogy when I was like, I don't know, 17. I don't want to lie because I don't remember ages. Maybe I was a little older. I don't know. And then I got this book, The Four, and I have read it, and it got me so much into the mood that I reread the trilogy once again. And now I'm gonna quickly say something about the last book, and the last book is called We Can Be Mended. And it is what happens after the Divergent trilogy, and it is about Four and the Triss's old friend Christina. And what I have read about it is basically that Four and Christina are getting together, and they try to overcome the trauma uh, that came with them losing almost everyone, because a lot of people died in this trilogy, and I get it, I get why, but I do not ever want to read it. First of all, the two of them together is yucky. It's ew, in my opinion, at least. But uh, apparently, I'm not the only one, because there were people were saying it's awful, basically, and the reviews are terrible. So I am never going to read this book, because I would not like it. I would not enjoy that. I dare saying. So basically, that's all of the books, and I can just quickly kind of the I want to quickly make an ending and say why exactly do I love these books so much. So first of all, the characters and the character development, amazing, absolutely amazing. Um, uh, just the main character, not just the main characters, as such as Triss and Four, have huge character development, but also the friends and the people that they meet along the way, and people they at first thought had nothing in common, and ending up really understanding each other. And uh, there's a lot of family drama, mostly obviously from Triss's and Force side, but also it also talks about other families. Other thing I do love about these books is, and that is especially in the first book, but then also in the third one a lot, and that is the action. Do you sometimes want to just watch an action movie, and or read an action book, and after you feel like you're also fucking dauntless in this case, and that you could be fearless and you want to be a superhero, basically. This is it. These are the books for that. Other thing I love, as I said, it's really really intriguing, and it really sucks you into the story, and you feel like you are part of the story, and you think about yourself and where would your place be in that story. It's so good. And yeah, other thing that is really cool about these is that you do tend to think about, well, first of all, society, because that's a big part of it, and second of all, just about human nature, and you know the and basically people in power and what that does to them. I'm sorry, I get really passionate about it. So I should end this video, or I'm gonna get way too long again. But I guess the the thing if you need to remember one thing from this video is that it's very much worth the reading. And if you have read the first book, or you're getting started on the second book, I know it's really sad, but it's really worth it to get through, so you get to the third book, because it's really intriguing. So yes, the hardest part is getting through the second book, in my opinion, because it's just too sad. But yeah, I guess that's it. If this video gets more than 10 views, because I have to be realistic right here. If it gets more than 10 views, I am gonna film more book videos. I do love that. Thank you so much for the watching. I hope it didn't get as long again. Until the next time, bye.